This is problem number 2 from section 6.3. This problem, they want us to find the sine and cosine functions by hand for the given angle. So sine of negative 9 pi over 4 and cosine of negative 9 pi over 4. That's what we're looking for. Now I know from coterminal angles that I can take negative 9 pi over 4 and I can add 360 to it and do that over and over again until I get a positive angle. Well, we know that 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi. And I can write that as different ratios with different denominators. Now I need a denominator of 4. I can write that as a denominator of 2, which would be 4 pi over 2, because 4 pi over 2 is 2 pi. I can write that as 6 pi over 3. Again, that's 2 pi. I can write that as 8 pi over 4. Again, 2 pi. And I can also write it as, for a denominator of 6, 12 pi over 6. And that would cover the different denominators on the unit circle. I have a denominator of 4, so my 2 pi is really the 8 pi over 4 that I want to use. So if I add 8 pi over 4 once, negative 9 pi plus 8 pi is going to give me negative pi, so I still don't have a positive angle, so I'm going to add it one more time. I add this with this, that's negative pi over 4. Add 8 more, and that is 7 pi over 4. Over 4. So really what I'm doing is I could rewrite this as sine of 7 pi over 4 if I wanted to, and cosine of 7 pi over 4, because those are the same coordinates. Now let's get talking unit circle here. So remember, I have negative 9 pi over 4. How would we go about that? Well, if I go negative, that means I'm going around clockwise. So negative 9 pi over 4, well, this is 1 negative pi over 4. Negative 2 pi. Sorry, negative pi over 4 is here. Negative 2 pi over 4 is here. Negative 3 pi over 4, negative 4 pi over 4, negative 5 pi over 4, negative 6 pi over 4, negative 7 pi over 4, negative 8 pi over 4 takes me, just like we talked about, 2 pi, right? So I went around one time. And then I go one more pi over 4, negative 9 pi over 4, and you can see 7 pi over 4 is the same as negative 9 pi over 4. So that's why when we do the coterminal angles, we end up with 7 pi over 4. Now that coordinate there is root 2 comma negative root 2 over 2. So my answer to the sine and cosine, well, sine is always the second coordinate. So sine is negative root 2 over 2. And cosine is root 2 over 2. Positive. So my answer for sine of this and for cosine of this are right there.